On April 26, 1986, an explosion at the number 4 reactor of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant changed the world forever. I'd seen multiple travel shows, including Departures, Top Gear, and many other YouTubers go to Chernobyl, and in 2018, I decided I really wanted to go there too. It was right on the list of my weird travel spots I wanted to go to, and I was really happy I went. Here's my story. The tour started in Kiev, where about 10 of us met, all from different countries, having never met before. On the way out, we watched a video of what happened during the disaster. This was before the HBO series actually came out, and yeah, that series is well worth the watch. It's very, very well done. As we were heading out there, we all got dosimeters to measure the radiation levels as we were going out. The normal background level is 0.14 microsieverts per hour, which is what you're going to experience pretty much everywhere in the world walking around. We arrived at the gate, which is one of 12 checkpoints entering the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, which is about 2,600 square kilometers, roughly the size of Luxembourg. It is a massive, massive area. Had to wait a bit for everything to clear, and there was a lot of other buses there, so we did have to wait our turn. In the meantime, there was little souvenirs we get there. I did manage to get a gas mask, which was pretty cool little souvenir. There were no pictures allowed there. They were pretty strict on that. Don't point your camera towards the gates or anything. So we just waited and waited, and eventually we entered and started one of the best trips I've ever been on. En route, we did enter one of the abandoned towns on the way there. It wasn't much left of it. There was a couple houses, a little gym, a little hall. But it was a nice little like precursor to what was coming. There was no real radiation there. Then we entered the town of Chernobyl. Now it was really cool being in there. We saw a lot of different monuments in there, including the trumpeting angel and lots of other ones dedicated to the firefighters that work there, including one to the initial firefighters who tried to put the fire out, and many died due to the radiation levels. We also got to go to a store and actually get some little things in there, but it was really cool just to drive around the little town there. One of the things you will see in the HBO series is the robots that were used to try to clear the radioactive debris from the roofs, and they were on display there. Of course, we couldn't go near them because many of them are probably still really, really radioactive. Now, a lot of them didn't actually work as soon as they got on the roof. They basically got up there and turned on and died due to the extremely, extremely high radioactive levels on the roof. But you'll actually recognize some of them from the HBO series, and seeing some of them, that was a really cool thing. On the way there, we did enter one of the old military buildings, and of course, being deserted during Soviet times, it was full of Soviet propaganda and different things, which is really, really cool. A lot of it's still intact. Even though it's been 30 years, it's still very visible, and lots of different things in there, and including something that was just really incredible to see, the Duga radar. The Duga radar is an over-the-horizon early warning radar that operated from July 1976 to December 1989. The Duga radar was used to track launches during the Cold War, and inside the buildings there's pictures of different ICBMs and missiles, including some that I wasn't really familiar with, but it was still really, really cool to see that stuff, because you know, that's pure Soviet Cold War stuff. Most of it was actually in pretty good shape, but the control room, on the other hand, wasn't in the best shape. But being exposed to the elements and robbers and everything, there was still some stuff there, but it was still really nice to see it, and really exclusive access. The Duga radar is also known as the Russian woodpecker, as it was heard by shortwave listeners for its sharp, repetitive tapping noises. It's massive, 2,300 feet long and 490 feet tall, like gigantic. And the worst thing, the mosquitoes around there were pretty vicious. Being around there in that area, I really wasn't too keen on getting bit by mosquitoes, so I was like just huddled up my hoodie as much as I could, trying not to get bitten. But yeah, there were lots of them. After leaving that, we headed towards the town of Prypit. Now, when the reactors were first built, Chernobyl was actually the closest town near it, so that's why they named it the Chernobyl reactors. But Prypit is the actual town that was affected by the whole devastation. And there's also the rumor that it was named the Vladimir Lenin power plant, and being a Soviet power plant, they didn't want Lenin's name to be desecrated by this massacre, so they just said something else about it. But I'm not really sure what exactly true. It's kind of hard to get through the misinformation and all that stuff through it, but still, it was very cool to see that town. And then Prypit was also made to house all the workers who work at the power plant. And it's quite a big city, just apartment buildings everywhere, as you'll see later on. Then began our drive to the reactor. Now, when you're driving there, all of a sudden our dosimeters just started freaking out, and everyone in the bus just started looking around. Heart rates definitely went up, a lot of sweat, and we didn't know what exactly was going on. And then our guide came on and said, no, we're actually passing the red forest. I'll have more on that later, but that was a really weird moment inside the bus, and calm, and then it's beep, 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 freaking out. Then we got our our first view of the reactor. And that's pretty wild when you know you're coming up to that. We started at a memorial of the liquidators who helped clean up the site. Then we moved around to the memorial next to the reactor. This is the closest we could actually get. And yeah, it was a pretty weird moment because you realize what you're standing next to. Even though the new safe containment is on it, it was rolled into place in 2016. It's the largest movable structure in the world. And it's built to last for the next 100 years. As in the inside, they are actually cleaning up the reactor as we speak. It's a 2.1 billion pound shelter and it weighs 31,000 tons. It's 162 meters long, 100 meters high, with a span of 257 meters. Weirdly, the radiation levels weren't as high there as we were driving next to Red Forest, but they were still freaking out a little. And the actual walls of it are 10 meters thick, so nothing can get out. And yeah, when you see it, it's ginormous. It's one of the biggest things you'll ever see. And considering it was rolled into place, that's quite an astounding engineering feat. We also did pass the current and future nuclear waste disposal site. No stopping was allowed here, so the best picture I get was this one. We also did get to go inside one of the uncompleted nuclear cooling towers, and that was a really cool thing. It is quite massive, as you would imagine. There's some pretty awesome graffiti inside, and the echoes are pretty good. We also did get a actual reading on our dosimeters from the ground. It read 82.4 microsieverts per hour, which is pretty high. Nothing you want to be rolling around in. While we were leaving, we did pass the Red Forest. And that's the spot where after the initial explosion happened, the prevailing winds carried all that radiation debris into that area, basically killing everything, turning the trees red, which is dead with radiation. As with special requests from our group, we decided to stop. Now, they don't usually do this, and she was sort of a little nervous about it, but sort of pulled her leg for it. So we walked over to the edge, and she sort of pushed her foot aside and put her dosimeter next to the ground, and it read 201 microsieverts per hour. Now, she was really nervous about that. She's like, that's a really, really high reading, so we were advised to bang our boots off really well, and of course, don't touch anything. That was one of the main things they told us when we were in there. Like, do not touch anything, don't take anything. Like, there's some stuff that's really, really radioactive in there, and just you don't want to be in contact with that for too long, especially touching it. That area is actually one of the most radioactive spots in the world, and it was decimated. So part of the initial cleanup, they actually bulldozed it, put some sand over it and some other things, trying just to cover it up, because yeah, that was a really, really bad spot. And there's all sorts of signs there that tell you very specifically, do not go in that area. I couldn't read it, of course, but I understood it, and after realizing what that was, I didn't want to even venture near it. After some of that, we went to our hotel, staying in Chernobyl. So we stayed at the Desica Chernobyl Hotel. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, so forgive me. It's one of the couple hotels you can actually stay in there when you're doing tours. So we get in there, and they tell us one thing too. You will be locked inside for the night. You're not allowed to venture outside. So a little weird there. So we had some food, which was really, really good food actually, and had a shower. Now, that was something really weird, and the water was from there. They told us the radiation has been seeping lower and lower into the ground, so the water is safe. Of course, don't drink it, but to shower with it, you're fine. That was really weird. I did shower with it and did not drink it. And then, of course, we had a couple of beers with everyone else, chatted, learned about everyone else, and then went to sleep for the night, which was actually really nice. It was a nice spot to stay, of course, being where it was. Waking up, had a great sleep, and then we went into the town of Prypit to actually explore it. Now, you're not really supposed to go into the buildings, but they were still standing at that time, and our guide said, just watch where we're going and be really safe. And of course, they gave us some masks just to protect us, just for the dust and everything else. And it was the same sort of thing. Don't touch anything, don't move anything, don't steal anything. Just be really cautious and enjoy it. Take lots of pictures, which I did. Of course, walk around, there's lots of different abandoned buildings. Found an old Soviet mosaic for Bald and Bankrupt. There you go. We were also inside an old gymnasium. The floor was pretty worn out and there was lots of radiation signs around there, but we're more suspecting they were just stay out of here. We don't want anyone hurting themselves in the floors. And there's also lots of Olympic stuff around there that we did see. Then we got near the hospital. Now, that was really, really cool to see. So when you're first coming up to the hospital, you'll notice a big fresh dirt pile right outside. So we were looking at that and wondering about it. And then our guide said, well, the reason for that is the basement. They don't want anyone going down there. So after the fire, the firefighters who went in there, they went to the hospital, and of course their gear was covered in radiation. So the nurses took it off and put it downstairs into a room in the basement. Previous tours had gone down there, and when they got to that room, their dosimeters would absolutely max out, like horrifically. Like, we're talking one of the worst spots you'd ever want to be be. Like, you may be in there for a minute max. Like, it's just very, very dangerous spot. So the government found people were going down there into that room, so they covered it up and covered all the entrances. They don't want the collateral people going down there, which I totally understand. It is probably not a safe room to be in. Like, I just couldn't imagine. So walking around the hospital was really eerie. There's lots of different rooms in there. We were walking through what we think was some of the operating rooms, saw lots of different papers, medicine strewn about, different rooms. It was really, really cool to be around it. Of course, don't take anything, don't touch anything, still held. And I took some of my favorite pictures in there. And being in there was really, really neat. It was just lots of different spots to go. So after the series came out on HBO, tourism really ramped up there, including a lot of influencers going there to get their little piece of it. And of course, all the influencers wanted to get into the high radiation spots just to get the good clickbait and everything. Of course, we knew better. We weren't going to go near that stuff. So you'll see on some videos of it where the influencers go in and the dosimeters are freaking out and they get in these objects, sit around stuff, move stuff around, and just really, really dangerous stuff. So I was watching this and they entered the hospital and I'm walking around and then I see something and I know right away before they even say anything what's missing out of this picture. So before they covered up the firefighters' gear, they did take a piece of it off and put it on the counter up top, put a rock on it, and it was just there so people could see the actual radiation level of the gear. Now, that piece was missing. Someone decided to actually take it or move it or touch it or do something with it. I don't know what they did with it. There's no way they could get out with it probably. They would have caught it on the exit through one of the checkpoints, but just stupidity. I don't know why people would grab this stuff. Like, just use your head. It's very radioactive. There's clearly radiation on it. Your dosimeter freaks out when it's put next to it, but yeah, some idiot took that or touched it or did something with it. I don't know. We continued traveling through buildings into an old pool, old gym, and a piano that sort of kind of worked. And just through the trees, we could see the playground and the amusement park. Then it was off to the iconic bumper cars and Ferris wheel. Now this is a spot really, really wanted to see. The grand opening was planned for May 1st. It was so close. Allegedly, it was open prior, but it's really hard to substantiate any info on that sort of situation. Of course, we were told not to hop in the bumper cars as much as we wanted to. Could have fit, but they said, of course, the radiation just sticks to the metal a lot more, so just really, really be cautious around there. And then I also did see this cool little thing, just what a tree does to iron after 30 years. Then it was to another famous Chernobyl location, the pool. So you can see from this picture, she put up a picture and it shows just how much trees have grown in and covered everything up. And then once we're inside, that was really nice to be in there. Walking around it, of course, don't go in the pool, don't jump in, there's nothing in there. But it was really neat, really cool to be in there. Saw some other tour groups in there, inspected around, did a little walking around, but I really, really wanted to go in that pool, but really, really cool spot to see too. One of the final stops in Prypit was the rooftop. So this is one of the few spots where I actually touched something. So you actually had to go and use some hand railings. And of course, we had to go up all the stairs, which was quite a bit. And of course, we took some breaks along the way, went down, looked at some different apartments, and basically everything been raided and destroyed already. It's been 30 years, so yeah, mostly everything's been taken out of there. But once you get to the roof, you get the crazy, crazy view of the town of Prypit. Then you see the reactor in the background along with the Duga radar. Now that is really, really cool. There's no safety railings up there, of course, as you wouldn't expect any, but really, really cool to be up on that roof. I really enjoyed being up there. The view was insane, and you just got to see the massive amount of area that's around that is all uninhabited. On the way through, we got a real special treat going through town of Chernobyl. We got to visit with one of the 106 people who had returned after the explosion. So we went in the house and got to have some little food, and she played her accordion for us. Got to ask some questions, and mine was, how does she feel that it's now became like a tourist attraction, that one of the biggest disasters the world has ever known? And she said she was actually kind of nice with it. She's like, people got to learn the history of our country and see everything, and really appreciative. So of course we had some food, little snacks, and then she said vodka. So all of us like, okay, sure, we'll have a shot, but it is customary to have 3 shots. So that was really fun. Got nice and liquored. She got a nice hug after that. And it really made everyone cheerful and talkative. Really made the drive back really fun. Everyone got loosened up really well. And that was just a really fun experience to meet her and to hear her story and hear different people ask questions and just her things about life there. there. So leaving, you did have to go through the final radiation checkpoint. So they go through the van with different dosimeters and check everything. So if you're stealing anything, that's when you're going to be caught. And she did give us a little warning. It's like, if you stole anything or took anything, get it out. We don't want it in here because everyone will get in trouble. So then we go inside a building and you go through the detectors. And as you'll see in the picture here, you stand there, put your palms up, and they check everything. Thankfully, our whole group was clear to go. And everyone was pretty nervous going through there because we've heard some stories of people not making it through just some by weird circumstance. But everyone in our group made it through fine. That was a nice drive back to Kiev. Of course, after those 3 vodka shots, everyone was really talkative, and it made for a nice end to that little trip. We stopped just outside of McDonald's in Kiev, and I got rid of my shoes and my jeans. I specifically wore the crappiest ones I could find and deposited them in a dumpster. They said we really didn't have to. We were exposed to the same amount of radiation that I would have experienced my flight over, but I kind of just didn't want to have that stuff with me anymore, and I just threw them out. All in all, it was probably one of the best tours I've ever done in my life. I was really fortunate to do it, especially seeing the circumstance right now that it's probably not possible to even travel there right now. And I really liked it too because I am the only person I personally know that's actually been there. Besides some travel vloggers and YouTubers, I'm the only person that's been there. So that's a nice little feather in my hat, just that I'm the only person I know that's ever been there. Of course, I hope peace does come back to that region and more people can travel there. Because after the series, I know a lot of people wanted to go there and experience it. And it's just getting older and older and older. And the buildings are starting to probably deteriorate pretty badly. It's one of the most infamous travel spots in the world. And to see it firsthand was really spectacular. I was really happy to do it. And especially to do it before the HBO series came out because it was still available. There wasn't a ton of bookings, so I could basically pick what dates I wanted to go. But I do recommend if anyone wants to go there, when it does open up, do it. It is a spectacular spot to go. The food was great, the people were great, and Ukraine was just great. Kiev was beautiful. I loved being there, and I really recommend it. If you can go to Ukraine, do it. And of course, I did get my shirt there too. Good luck reading it. But it was a nice trip, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Have a good night.